Hungary's government has decided to withdraw from the International Criminal Court. The announcement coincides with a state visit to the country by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It's the first time he's visited an EU country since the ICC issued an arrest warrant for him over the country's war in Gaza. Israel has rejected the war accusations, which it says are politically motivated and anti-Semitic. Members of the ICC have an obligation to enforce warrants and arrest people subject to the orders if they travel to their country. But Hungary's right-wing Prime Minister Viktor Orban labelled the warrants brazen, cynical and unacceptable before withdrawing from the court.
It is no longer an impartial court, not a court of law, but a political court. And this was most clearly shown by the decisions regarding Israel. And we think that a democratic rule of law state with any self-respect, such as Hungary, will not participate.
This is not only important for us, it's important for all democracies. It's important to stand up to this corrupt organization that has equated a democracy that is challenged for its very existence by the most horrific terroristic powers on earth. But the ICC directs its actions against us.
Regina Wise is a barrister listed on the ICC Victims and Defence Council and a former war crimes prosecutor, and joins us now from Hobart. Good morning, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Dan.
Tell me, what's your reaction to this news?
Look, Dan, it's always disheartening when you hear these types of announcements, particularly at a time where the rule of international law really is being flouted. War crimes continue to be committed with impunity. And the International Criminal Court was created over 25 years ago for this very reason, to ensure that impunity no longer exists. Now, it's not the first time we've heard these sorts of announcements and threats of withdrawal. We've heard them before and states haven't followed through. Let's see if Hungary does. I hope they don't. But really, this is a time where support for the International Criminal Court should be pushed forward rather than withdrawing of support.
And given that component, Regina, that if you are a member of the ICC and someone who has one of these warrants comes to your country, they need to be essentially arrested and handed over. Is it possible that Hungary might just say, actually, we're not doing the arresting, we're saying we're going to leave, and then not following through with the leaving without consequences? Absolutely.
Look, there are obligations. At the moment, they're in breach of their obligations to arrest Netanyahu and surrender him to the court. So that's clear, and that comes under the Rome Statute, which is the foundation document of the International Criminal Court. The President of the Assembly of State Parties has already announced concern relating to Hungary's non-arrest. I'm sure that more announcements will follow from the International Criminal Court. Other member states, I think the Netherlands have already spoken out and condemned Hungary not arresting. And certainly they could very well say, well, look, we're not arresting him, we're going to withdraw, and then we'll let it go. We've already seen that. South Africa some time ago said they were withdrawing from the International Criminal Court, as did Kenya, as did Gambia, and none of them have. The only countries that actually have withdrawn, I think, are Burundi and the Philippines.
Yeah, right. That's really interesting. Just to go back to the point you made at the start, Regina, about, I think the term used was around the flouting of the international rules-based order. What sort of impact does that have on the way we interact with each other on a global scale?
Yeah, look, I see President Orban speaking about the politicisation of the court. By making this announcement and putting political alliances over the rule of international law and breaches of international law, that I see as politicisation of the court. We've got to remember that Netanyahu's arrest warrant was issued by 3 independent judges from 3 different countries. That it was sought by the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. So politicisation of the court, well, that's, something that I think this sort of move is doing. It's not the issuing of arrest warrants. I think Australia particularly, we need to now take a stand and support the court. In light of US sanctions being threatened against ICC staff, withdrawals like this being threatened, we need to strengthen our resolve, and the 125 member states need to strengthen their resolve to really support the court.